The morning of November 21st began like any other autumn day at Adelaide Cottage, with mist clinging to the Windsor grounds as the first light pierced through ancient oaks, casting long, pale shadows across the dew-damp lawns. A faint chill threaded through the air, hinting that winter waited just beyond the horizon. Inside the modest four-bedroom home the Prince and Princess of Wales had chosen for its simplicity, 3 children prepared for what they believed would be an ordinary Thursday. Prince George, 11, already dressed in his school uniform, methodically packing his mathematics textbook with the precision of someone who found comfort in routine. Princess Charlotte, 9, practicing her piano scales in the adjoining room with a discipline her instructors often praised, and 6-year-old Prince Louis sitting cross-legged on his bedroom floor, building an elaborate tower from wooden blocks, blissfully unaware of the heaviness that lingered downstairs. Catherine had not slept. The decision she and William had made weeks earlier after hushed late-night conversations, consultations with doctors, therapists, and trusted advisors, and countless rounds of agonizing deliberation, now loomed as reality. Knowing the right path and walking it, she realized, were entirely different things. Standing in the kitchen with her hands wrapped around a cup of tea gone cold, she stared out at the garden where her children had played only yesterday, struck by how cruelly normal the world appeared when everything was about to change. William entered quietly, his arrival signaled only by the soft sound of his footsteps as he placed a hand on her arm. William placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture that conveyed what words could not. They had weathered storms before public scrutiny, private grief, the relentless expectations of monarchy, but this was different. This was about their children, about shattering the protective bubble they had so carefully built around their young lives. The palace machine had already been set in motion. Schedules cleared, staff briefed, statements drafted and sealed. By noon, official announcements would be released. By evening, global media would be in a frenzy. But before any of that, before flashing headlines and commentary from strangers their children needed to hear the truth from them. The decision to tell them together had been unanimous. George would understand the most, his maturity beyond his years evident in the way he observed the world with a quiet, sometimes unsettling seriousness. Charlotte, perceptive and emotionally intelligent, would ask the questions they dreaded answering. Louis, sweet and uncomplicated in the way only a 6-year-old could be, would need the most reassurance, closeness rather than explanations. Catherine checked her watch, 7:30. In 30 minutes, they would sit down as a family. In 30 minutes, childhood innocence would collide with adult reality. Upstairs, Charlotte had stopped playing. She stood at her bedroom window, watching her parents in the garden below, sensing that something was wrong, something she had felt for days, perhaps weeks. Her mother's smile never quite reached her eyes. Hushed phone conversations stopped the moment she entered a room, and serious-looking visitors appeared through the garden entrance instead of the main door. Children, especially royal children accustomed to reading subtle shifts in household atmosphere, possessed an almost supernatural ability to detect when adults were hiding something significant. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, her breath fogging the window, wondering if today would be the day she learned why. George, meanwhile, had noticed the changes in routine. George had noticed the sudden cancellation of his mother's engagements, and the way his father had been home more frequently, his usual duties apparently delegated to others. At 11, he understood more about his family's role than many adults realized. He had been briefed gently but truthfully about his future responsibilities, aware that their lives were not entirely their own, that duty and service formed the foundation of everything. But he also knew the silent language of his parents' expressions, and what he had seen lately frightened him more than he cared to admit. He packed his school bag more slowly than usual, as though stalling time might prevent whatever was coming. Louis worked with childlike focus, unaware of the storm gathering beyond his bedroom walls, though even he sensed the shift in atmosphere, a subtle tension settling into the house like a change in air pressure before thunder. The call came at precisely 8 o'clock. Maria, their longtime housekeeper, more family than staff, quietly informed the children that their parents wanted to see them in the sitting room. The unusual formality of the request was not lost on any of them. George straightened his tie instinctively. Charlotte left her piano without a word, and Louis, sensing the seriousness in his siblings' silence, carefully dismantled his block tower rather than leaving it mid-construction before following them downstairs. They moved through the house like small soldiers reporting for duty, their royal training evident even amid uncertainty. Though beneath their composure, each child's heart raced with anticipation and unspoken dread. The sitting room had been arranged differently. the formal furniture pushed aside to create a more intimate setting. Catherine and William sat together on the sofa, their unity deliberate and reassuring. 3 chairs had been placed facing them, close enough for comfort, yet spaced so each child had room of their own. Morning light filtered through the sheer curtains, soft and pale, illuminating motes of dust suspended in the still air. As the children entered, Catherine's breath caught. They looked so young, so vulnerable, still dressed in their everyday clothes, still carrying the lightness of childhood in their expressions. In minutes, that lightness would be tested in ways she had prayed they would never have to face so soon. She reached for William's hand beneath the cushion, grounding herself, preparing for the words that would change everything. And then the door clicked shut behind them, sealing the room and sealing the moment into memory. William spoke first, his voice trained through years of public duty to project calm authority, now softened, vulnerable, stripped of formality as he began not with the news itself, but with affirmation. He told them they were loved profoundly and unconditionally, that they were strong, that the strength they held as individuals and as siblings would matter in the days ahead. He reminded them that families faced difficulties together and that the bond they shared was unbreakable, no matter what challenges awaited them. His tone wavered only once, just enough for Catherine to glance at him in quiet support. George's expression grew more serious with every word. He sat forward, hands folded in his lap, absorbing every syllable not as a child seeking comfort, but as a young heir gathering information. Charlotte reached for Lewis's hand, her instinct to protect surfacing before she even understood what she was bracing for, while Lewis, still too young to comprehend the gravity in the room, swung his legs gently, his shoes not quite touching the floor. Then Catherine took over, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to rise. She spoke with the careful precision of someone who had rehearsed this moment 100 times, while still dreading the need to say the words aloud. She explained that sometimes people's bodies become unwell, that even when someone looks healthy on the outside, things can happen inside that need attention and treatment, illnesses that require time, patience, and medical care. She told them she had been unwell, that the treatments she had undergone earlier in the year had not been as successful as hoped, and that the illness had returned, requiring more treatment and more time, meaning their routines would change again. For a moment the room did not move. Silence pressed against them like something physical, stretching each second thin. Charlotte broke it first, her voice a small but unwavering whisper asking, "Are you going to die?" A question so direct and courageous it made William close his eyes. Catherine leaned forward, meeting her daughter's gaze without flinching. No, she told her, she was not going to die. She would fight this, she had the best doctors, and she would be there for them, words that were both reassurance and prayer spoken against uncertainty. George's reaction was different. He asked no questions, instead making internal calculations, shaped by his early understanding of duty, responsibility, and the future he'd been born into. His jaw tightened, his posture straightened, and when he finally spoke, his voice cracked. Who knows? George's voice cracked slightly, the question tactical and practical, the kind asked by someone who already understood that in their world information was power and privacy was fragile. William answered with the same honesty he had promised himself he would maintain, explaining that the palace would release a statement that afternoon, that the Prime Minister had been informed, that the King and other family members already knew, and that by tomorrow the world would know. George nodded slowly, absorbing each detail, seeming to grow older in real time. Lewis, overwhelmed by a gravity he could sense but not fully comprehend, began to cry quiet, confused tears born of fear without understanding. Catherine immediately knelt before him, taking his small hands in hers, her touch alone steadying him as she spoke about bravery, about how courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to keep loving, hoping, and living even when things were difficult. She promised she would still be there for bedtime stories and cuddles, for garden walks and school pickups, for the ordinary moments that stitched their days together. She promised that some things would remain unchanged even as others shifted. The conversation stretched on for over an hour, as questions emerged slowly and cautiously, each child processing the news in their own way. Charlotte asked about the treatment, whether it would hurt, whether their mother would lose her hair again, whether she would need to stay in hospital. George asked about schedules, whether he would still be able to see her often, whether his own public appearances might increase. Lewis simply sought reassurance, repeating variations of the same questions, grounding himself through repetition. William and Catherine answered each one with patience and honesty, adjusting their explanations to each child's emotional capacity, resisting the urge to shield them with silence. What the children did not know, and what their parents had chosen to carry alone, was the full weight of the medical reality. That the cancer had metastasized unexpectedly, that the upcoming treatment would be aggressive and experimental, that even the most optimistic specialists spoke in carefully measured tones. As morning drifted toward midday, shock gave way to a new kind of reality as the children's questions shifted toward practical matters. Whether they could tell their friends, whether photographers would be outside school, whether Christmas would be different. Their concerns revealed both their ages and their unusual circumstances, suspended between ordinary childhood and extraordinary duty. William and Catherine navigated each question gently, acknowledging that yes, things would change. Yes, privacy would matter more than ever. And yes, they would all need to be brave in ways they had never expected. When the conversation finally ended, none of them rose right away. Instead, they remained together, 5 figures gathered in a circle of soft morning light, holding on to the last quiet moments before the outside world pressed in. Behind palace walls, Adelaide Cottage became an island of careful calm as the hours following the conversation unfolded. The children were encouraged to maintain their routines as much as possible. George retreated to his room with a book he did not read, staring at the ceiling as his mind raced through possibilities. Charlotte sat at her piano with her fingers resting silently on the keys, tears falling onto the ivory, and Louis stayed close to his mother, unwilling to separate from her, as though staying near could protect her. Adults moved around them with practiced gentleness, all aware they were witnessing the end of one chapter and the uncertain beginning of another. At Buckingham Palace, the machinery of monarchy clicked into place. The king, informed days earlier and dealing with his own health challenges, had offered full support and cleared his schedule, making himself available as both monarch and grandfather. Queen Camilla responded with her characteristic blend of pragmatism and warmth, offering Catherine advice rooted in experience. Tell the children the truth, give them something to hold on to, let them feel involved rather than powerless. The official statement, released at noon, confirmed that Catherine's earlier treatment had not prevented recurrence, that more intervention would be needed, and requested privacy during the difficult period ahead. The public response was immediate. Messages of support flooded social media. Flowers appeared at palace gates within hours, and by evening vigils were being organized across the Commonwealth. While touching, the outpouring also added pressure. Every bouquet, prayer, and well-wish carried weight. Inside Adelaide Cottage, William assumed the role of operational commander, coordinating with aides, medical staff, and security to establish new protocols. The children's school was briefed, teachers prepared for signs of distress, classmates' parents were asked for discretion, and protection officers updated security assessments. The household staff grew even more vigilant, shielding the family's private grief from the outside world. Charlotte, perceptive as ever, noticed the subtle shifts, the way her mother touched her father's hand more often, the fleeting moments when Catherine's smile faltered, the hushed phone calls that continued throughout the afternoon. Late in the day, she cornered her father in the hallway, her expression far older than her years as she asked, "Is Mommy really going to be okay?" And the emphasis she placed on really revealed that she understood far more than the morning's carefully crafted explanations had intended. William knelt to meet Charlotte's eyes, refusing to offer false certainty, but equally determined not to burden her with adult fears. "We are doing everything possible to make sure she is," he told her. "And we need you to be brave, to keep loving her and living your life, because that is what will help her most." George, meanwhile, had processed the news differently, compiling questions throughout the day in a notebook with methodical precision. That evening he presented the list to his parents, seeking concrete answers. How long would treatment last? What were the side effects? Would there be surgery? When could life return to normal? William and Catherine answered each question as honestly as possible without overwhelming him with medical complexity. But the question George did not ask, the one lingering in his eyes, remained unanswerable. What happens if nothing works? Louis's breakdown came at bedtime. The weight of the day, the disrupted routines, and the ambient anxiety, finally overwhelming his 6-year-old ability to cope. He sobbed in his mother's arms, his small body shaking with emotions too large to contain, and Catherine held him, rocking gently and singing the lullabies she had sung since infancy, offering comfort through presence and unconditional love. William stood in the doorway, watching his wife soothe their youngest while facing her own fear and exhaustion, feeling the helplessness that comes when love alone cannot fix what is broken, and the quiet strength in vulnerability. In the days that followed, a new rhythm emerged. deliberate normality layered over profound uncertainty. The children returned to school with their security detail reinforced, and teachers briefed to watch for signs of distress while maintaining routine expectations, balancing their roles as regular students and young people navigating extraordinary circumstances. Charlotte immersed herself in her studies with unusual intensity, as if academic achievement could create order from chaos. George grew quieter, more observant, carrying a gravity that made staff exchange worried glances, while Lewis clung to routines with desperate determination, insisting on bedtime stories at the same time, breakfasts following the same pattern, and nothing else allowed to change. On a grey Monday morning, Catherine began her treatment protocol with William at her side, the children having been taken to school early to shield them from witnessing her departure, a decision meant to preserve the fragile balance of their childhood amid the upheaval. The medical procedures had been controversial within the family, with Catherine instinctively wanting transparency to show the children that treatment, while difficult, was manageable, and William worrying about traumatizing them, with images of their mother in clinical settings. Weakened by medication, they compromised. The children would know when treatment days occurred and understand that their mother might be tired or unwell afterward, but they would not witness the procedures themselves an imperfect solution to an impossible situation. Public interest, far from waning, only intensified. Photographers with long lenses appeared near the children's school. Tabloids ran daily updates, some respectful, others wildly speculative, and social media became a battleground between those demanding privacy and those claiming the public's right to know. The palace press office worked overtime, issuing carefully worded statements that provided minimal information while attempting to satisfy insatiable curiosity. And the family's communications secretary, a veteran of decades in royal service, admitted privately that this was the most challenging crisis she had faced, precisely because it involved children and health, two topics that inflamed public emotion like nothing else. Within the family, roles shifted subtly but significantly. King Charles, understanding the pressure on William to be simultaneously husband, father, and future king, quietly took on additional duties, clearing his son's schedule of all but essential engagements. Princess, and pragmatic and fiercely protective, became a regular presence at Adelaide Cottage, offering the no-nonsense support Catherine found unexpectedly comforting. Even relationships previously strained by royal dramas found new equilibrium in the face of genuine crisis, as mortality sharpened perspective. Charlotte responded in her own way, leaving small notes of encouragement around the house, carefully written and decorated with flowers and hearts. "I love you, Mommy. You are the bravest person I know. We are all cheering for you." Catherine kept each note in a box beside her bed, reading them on the hardest days, reminded why fighting was not optional, and why surrender was inconceivable. Her children needed her, and she would move heaven and earth to remain present. George, reserved but equally purposeful, turned to research, reading about cancer treatment with the focus he applied to schoolwork, bookmarking age-appropriate medical journals, and reviewing chemotherapy protocols multiple times. When questioned, he explained that understanding helped him feel less afraid, that knowledge was a form of control when so much felt uncontrollable, and William recognized in him the same coping mechanism he himself used, intellectualizing emotion and seeking refuge. In planning, Lewis, lacking the vocabulary of his older siblings, expressed distress through behavior, becoming clingy, refusing to sleep in his own bed, and experiencing regressions he had long outgrown. Child psychologists, consulted discreetly, assured William and Catherine that this was normal under stress, and that patience and consistency would help him regain stability. The household adapted, quietly accepting Lewis's midnight migrations, the extra time needed for morning routines, and sudden preferences for toddler-era foods. In a family accustomed to maintaining appearances, they allowed him the grace of falling apart. Even as the effects of Catherine's treatment became visible within weeks. Her legendary hair, the subject of countless magazine articles and style columns, began to thin again, prompting her to cut it short preemptively, refusing to watch it fall gradually. The children had been prepared with photographs beforehand, yet seeing their mother with dramatically shorter hair still made Lewis cry and Charlotte go quiet, while George simply nodded as though confirming something he had already anticipated. They adapted as children do, finding new normals where old ones had existed. Within days, Charlotte declared that her mother looked like a warrior princess, and Lewis insisted on wearing his hair similarly, a gesture of solidarity that made Catherine laugh through tears. Winter descended on Windsor with unusual severity, frost forming intricate patterns on windows, bare trees standing sentinel over frost-hardened ground, while inside Adelaide Cottage, the family established a functioning rhythm. Treatment days were marked on a calendar visible to the children, providing predictability. Good days were celebrated with small rituals, movie nights, elaborate board games, and Catherine reading aloud even when exhausted, while bad days were acknowledged honestly, teaching the children that their mother's fatigue or nausea were temporary side effects, not worsening illness. As Christmas approached, traditions carried additional weight, each moment tinged with the unspoken question of whether it might be the last. Catherine insisted on maintaining as many traditions as possible. The tree was selected with the children's input and decorated with ornaments chronicling their young lives. Gingerbread houses were constructed with joyful messiness, and letters to Father Christmas included Lewis's heartbreaking plea, "Please make my mommy all better." After discussion, William and Catherine agreed to Sandringham for the holidays, immediate family only, maintaining privacy and minimizing staff presence, creating an environment where cousins could play and normalcy could assert itself, even artificially, while the children's excitement remained genuine. Charlotte's questions evolved as her understanding deepened, asking about heaven, the afterlife, and whether people who die could still see their families. Catherine and William navigated these conversations with clergy, counselors, and their own evolving understanding, speaking of faith without false promises, love that transcends physical presence, and memories that preserve those lost. By mid-December, the treatment protocol reached a critical juncture. Scans would reveal whether the aggressive approach was working, and Catherine underwent the tests alone, insisting William stay with the children to preserve routines. The waiting period stretched unbearably, but she studied her children with new intensity, cataloguing moments and memorizing details. When the results came on Wednesday afternoon, William took the call, his face neutral, concealing the mixture of relief and anxiety, and when he hung up, he smiled, and Catherine understood. The treatment was working. The tumours had shrunk, the markers improved. While not a cure or guarantee, progress was measurable. That evening, they gathered in the same sitting room where the initial conversation had occurred months earlier, and the news was shared. The medicine was helping. Mommy was getting better. There would be more treatment, more difficult days, but the doctors were pleased with progress. Louis launched himself at his mother, nearly toppling her in a hug. Charlotte cried tears of relief. George shed one tear before smiling, genuine and transformative. For the first time in months, the household felt light. Laughter echoed through rooms previously heavy with worry. The children stayed up past bedtime, unwilling to let go of the relief and joy, while William and Catherine watched them simply be children again, temporarily unburdened. The road ahead remained long and uncertain, with treatments, tests, and waiting, yet hope prevailed. As December progressed toward Christmas, the family was transformed by the experience, having faced the unthinkable and survived, allowing vulnerability, acknowledging fear, and seeking help. The children learned resilience and courage beyond the classroom, observing parents who were scared but not defeated, weakened but not broken, witnessing love expressed in treatment rooms and hospital corridors, and recognizing bravery in continuing to rise despite fear. Catherine's treatment would continue into the new year and beyond, with setbacks and scares, good days and terrible ones, but they would face it together, armed with the knowledge that survival was possible and hope essential. In years to come, the children would remember not just the fear and sadness, but the strength they discovered, the bonds deepened under pressure, and the profound truth that love, even when it cannot prevent suffering, sustains us and allows us to endure with grace.